All right, today we're going to break down a really important policy document, one that's designed to completely overhaul how the U.S. military buys all of its gear. We're talking about Executive Order 14265, Modernizing Defense Acquisitions. So, right out of the gate, the order lays it all out there with this pretty blunt statement. There's no sugarcoating it. It identifies a clear and urgent problem. The system we have right now for getting technology to our troops is just too slow and too rigid to give them the edge they need.
So here's the game plan for how we're going to unpack this. First, we'll dig into the problem the order's trying to solve. Then we'll get into the solution, which is built on three main pillars: new rules for buying things, a total remake of the workforce, and a new way to hold massive programs accountable. And you're going to want to stick around because we'll wrap up with the super tight timeline they've set to get all this done.
All right, so first things first, let's really dig into the diagnosis here. What exactly is so broken that it required an entire executive order to try and fix it? The document itself says the main goal is to overhaul what it calls an antiquated system. And that word, antiquated, it's doing a lot of heavy lifting, right? It's not just saying it's old. It's painting this picture of a system that's completely out of step with the modern world, something built for a different era that's now struggling to keep up with the pace of technology. Okay, so we get the problem. It's old, it's slow. So what's the big solution? Well, the order lays out a brand new official policy for how the entire government should tackle this. What this is really all about is a huge shift in thinking. The whole point is to ditch the old, slow, bureaucratic way of doing things and bring in a new model that's all about speed, being flexible, and actually getting things done. And, this is key, it wants to reward the people in the system for taking smart risks and trying new, innovative approaches.
All right, let's jump into the first pillar of this plan. This is where we look at how it wants to change the nuts and bolts of actually buying military equipment.
Okay, this right here, this is a really big deal. It's basically telling everyone to stop automatically reaching for the old, slow, complicated playbook every single time. Instead, they have to first look for a faster, more streamlined way to do it. It's a simple idea, but it's powerful. Stop reinventing the wheel if you don't have to.
So one of the key tools the order really pushes for is something called Other Transactions Authority, or OTA for short. You can kind of think of it like a contracting express lane. It lets the government get around some of the usual really rigid rules to make more flexible and often much faster deals. This is especially helpful for working with newer tech companies that might not want to deal with the Pentagon's normal process. And these OTAs, they're not just a one-off thing. They're part of this bigger idea called the Adaptive Acquisition Framework. The best way to picture this is like a big toolbox, or maybe a menu at a restaurant. Instead of just one way to do things, officials get a whole range of options, so they can pick the perfect tool for whatever job they're trying to do.
But it's not just about giving people new tools. The order also calls for, well, a full-on bureaucratic house cleaning. It requires a top-to-bottom review to cut out unnecessary steps, get rid of those endless layers of approvals, and maybe most importantly, make it absolutely clear who actually has the authority to make a decision and say yes. Okay, on to pillar number 2, and this one is absolutely critical because, you can have all the new rules in the world, but if the people who have to use them aren't empowered or trained to use them, then nothing changes. This is all about the people. This chart really lays out the massive cultural shift the order is trying to force. It's about completely rewiring how people think about their jobs. The goal is to move away from a culture where you get promoted by just not making mistakes to one where you're actively rewarded for taking smart risks, for trying new things, and for focusing on what the soldiers, sailors, and airmen actually need. And how do you make a culture shift like that actually stick? Well, you tie it to people's jobs. You change how they're evaluated. So now, things like whether they seriously considered buying commercial products first, or if they use these new faster pathways, that's going to be part of how their job performance gets measured. And to make sure this isn't all just theory stuck in a binder somewhere, the order sets up something super practical: new field training teams. Seriously, think of these folks as internal experts, like a SWAT team of acquisition pros who can go out and provide hands-on coaching to help teams actually put all these new ideas into practice. All right, now for the third and final pillar, and this is where the order really gets its teeth. This is all about putting major programs on notice and adding some serious accountability into the system. So at the heart of this new accountability system is a single number, 15%. That's it. And it becomes this critical red line for every single major defense acquisition program. So if any of these huge, multi-billion-dollar programs goes more than 15% over budget or falls more than 15% behind schedule or just can't do what it was supposed to do, bam, it gets a red flag. It goes on a list of programs that could be canceled, and that list goes straight to the people who decide on the budget.
And just so we're clear, this isn't just for a handful of programs. We're talking about all the biggest of the big, the major defense acquisition programs. And it doesn't even stop there. After that first wave, the order says there has to be a plan to review all the other major systems too. It's a total top-to-bottom scrub.
Okay, so maybe the most striking thing about this whole order is that it's not some far-off 10-year plan. No, this thing comes with some incredibly aggressive deadlines. The clock is ticking, and it is ticking fast. Just look at how fast this is all supposed to happen. From the day the order was signed, April 9th, 2025, the Pentagon has just 60 days, 60, to deliver its plan to fix the process. Then, within 90 days, that entire review of all those major programs we talked about has to be done. We are talking about massive, systemic changes being planned in just a matter of months. And this whole structure is designed for one thing: accountability. These aren't just suggestions for internal meetings. Nope. These are hard deadlines to deliver actual, concrete plans and finished reviews right to the President and the Office of Management and Budget. It's designed to force action, now. And that really brings us to the big, looming question, doesn't it? The order lays out this incredible blueprint for change. It's got new rules, a plan to remake the workforce, and a whole new system of accountability. The question now is, can all of this turn policy into reality? Can it really create that faster, more flexible system the military needs?